It's time for Clubhouse Chatter. Here's Norm Ordez.
Hey, that is right. So today is Father's Day. So happy Father's Day to all you dads out there, you grandpas, father figures. And I am Norman Edward Ordez, the proud son of Sergeant First Class retired Eugene Jonas Ordez and the proud grandsons of Felix Norman Ordez and Marvin Edward Ames. And as always, with me is my handy producer, Mr. Brian Erickson. And Brian, happy Father's Day.
Hey, happy Father's Day to you. So it's a great day. And just want to say happy Father's Day to my dad who passed away, now 7 years ago. So Ronald Arthur Erickson.
Nice. My dad passed away about a year and a half ago now, and we'll get into that a little bit here after our first guest. And our first guest this morning is Mr. Richard Stanley, who basically, he encouraged the kids in Uganda to play baseball, and you have seen them on the Little League Boys World Series in Williamsport. Their infectious style of play is amazing, and I witnessed last summer firsthand the 11, 12-year-old girls up here at Alpenrose Dairy, Portland, Oregon, and I will share my experience with that here in a little bit. Richard, how you doing?
I'm doing well, and a happy Father's Day to you and all your listeners.
So how is baseball and softball in Uganda? How is it going over there now? It's been a while since we've chatted.
We are expanding, and we've done a couple of good things. And we have, as far as the boys are concerned, we have a couple of major league teams that are very interested in what we're doing and would like us to continue on. As far as the girls, that's another problem. And I'm not sure how we're going to solve that one yet, but we're working on it.
So Little League, the juggernaut Little League had made a ruling that they have banned your school from going to Little League tournaments.
That is correct. That happened, basically we were running our Little League tournaments for the girls and for the boys. We run basically a 5-day tournament, double elimination. We bring 8 teams. We eliminate a couple teams by playing each other against each other, so we get down to 8. But basically, our tournaments are the first week in May and the second week in May. And what happened this year is we thought a gentleman from the league headquarters, a gentleman by the name of Dan Velt, was going to come over and visit us during the tournaments for the first time ever. Anyone from Little League would have come to Uganda. This is now since 2004. So, unfortunately, we got told on the Monday before I was due to leave, which was like the last Monday in April, that the Little League program would not allow the AVRS school to participate. It took them 4 years to find this rule. Why 4 years, I don't know. But it's not a new rule. It's been in the books. They've known what our school has been operating at. But the only thing that changed was we went to Europe and we won last year. Evidently, that's not allowed to happen against European teams. So, as a result, the gentleman who was supposed to be coming, he canceled the trip also at the last minute. So, nobody came, and what winds up happening is we, as a school, is banned. But that's only a small part of it. The real cute part about this, the boys' team this year, 11 and 12-year-olds team, did not win the tournament. A new school won the tournament, and they met all the requirements. They had all of the passports for their kids. They had all the birth certificates, everything done. And then Little League told us, well, they're too new. They can't come anyway. So what brought that about, I have no idea. But evidently, when I did tell this gentleman, Dan Velt, on the telephone that they were now the winner of our tournament, and they would be the ones that wanted to come to Poland to play, he almost died. How can that happen? You guys aren't bad enough to lose. You have to always win. I said, no, we lost. Quality of play is here dramatically improved. So then 2 weeks later, you're not allowed to come. So nobody from Africa is allowed to come.
Interesting. So I've witnessed Little League in their infinite wisdom firsthand. Last summer, the 11, 12-year-old girls played in Portland up in Alpenrose Dairy at the Little League Softball World Series. And so we stopped out and we were checking them out. And I'll tell you right offhand, they were the most athletic team at that tournament. If games were won on just athleticism, they would have dominated. I mean, every girl. It was amazing to watch them play. Where they lack is they lack the knowledge of the game because it's still pretty much in its infancy in Uganda, so they don't have the experience that like the American girls have. And I'm telling you, I brought in a couple of friends to help out, and we started kind of working with them, side on pitching and hitting, and just the improvements in that. I don't even think we got into an hour before Little League kicked us out and told us that we were giving the girls an unfair advantage. And my thing was, how is it an unfair advantage if we bring in a group of coaches to help these girls out when, like the team that they were going to be playing next, the Oregon team, these girls have the ability to go to hitting coaches and the pitching coaches, the catching coaches year round. Uganda, they don't have that.
Well, one of the problems you got is when you get into the so-called Little League World Series, of baseball or softball, as you indicated, a lot of the Americans had their own private pitching coaches and their own hitting coaches, and they can go anytime they want. And as you say, it doesn't exist in Uganda. And the problem is the only time they can get anything like that would be at a tournament like this, when they're exposed to the kids. If you took those kids and went to another park, then it wouldn't stop you.
Right, and that's what happened. Yeah, that's what happened. And
this is the tragedy of what Little League does. But there's a reason why they need to do that. That I can understand. Okay, but it is what it is. The irony, though, here is that what happened with us in 2013, we wanted to send the boys team to Poland. And we had just started the school, and we were taking kids from all over the country. One of the things people should understand, public schools in Uganda require you to pay money, even in a public school. You have to buy a uniform. Everybody has to have a uniform. You have to buy all your own books. Nothing is given to you for free. You have to pay some money for lunch each day, whether you want to or not. If you don't have the money, you just don't go to school. When you do get the money, you go back to the school the next year, that's your same grade that you skipped or missed, and you go back and pay the money. So it's a public school, but it's not free, ironically. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to have a school for kids to come and play, learn how to play all the sports, and not charging anything. We charged no kid anything. They're fed the best, they're housed, they're given uniforms, they're given tablets for all their textbooks to be on the tablets. So everything is the best that we can do, regardless of what their financial resources are. So this is what we're trying to do. And we tried to do this starting in 2013. And two of the kids had been to the Little League World Series as 11-year-olds from a part of the country that was obviously nowhere near where our school was. But we took those kids into the school, and Little League told us, oh, you can't come. You didn't ask permission to take those kids. And they changed the rule that year, after that year. And the deal was, if you were in a school, you could be part of the league. So they made that rule change. So they knew what we were doing. We were taking kids from all over the country. Okay? But that was okay because they knew we weren't going to get a visa the following year. And until 2014, when we had approved, we had the ability to tap somebody's $1 million, literally. We had to put up over $1 million proof that we could cover expenses if we went to Poland, even though we never had those expenses, in order to get the visas. That's what happened in 2015. Okay? Little League didn't expect that to happen, unfortunately. But we did. We went to Poland. And then what happened is the boys, collectively, the games they played, the score was 62-2.
Ooh.
That was the total of all the runs. Now, the girls went to Poland, and they were undefeated. They never played in a tournament before, other than in Uganda. And they beat the so-called powerhouses, Italy and Czech Republic. They beat them both. And in the championship game, the same thing. So now what happens, Little League's got a problem. They got two teams from Uganda who destroy the European program. And Little League's been losing a lot of teams out of Europe. This is one of the problems they've had. This goes all the way back to 2007, which I was involved in at that time. But in any event, there were some nasty letters, especially about the boys, I received, and Lily received also. You got to investigate. These kids are too good. They don't belong there. We went to the Lily World Series. We didn't win the World Series.
Right.
How are we so good? Okay, but this is the mentality you have in Europe, because they don't play. They can't play in most of the European countries, in northern countries especially, until around the middle of April. And by that time, the tournament has to be played in June or early July, and there's not enough games to play. And then once the tournament's over, nobody plays again. So the quality of play in Europe is very poor compared to anywhere else. So anything which puts any kids in the field playing a lot of games is going to produce a good team. But now, how does Little League deal with Europe if they keep losing teams? When they broke Europe away from Africa and the Middle East, that's how we went in 2012, with Middle East, Africa, not Europe. They had 16 teams or 17 teams wanting to play in that Polish tournament. And we were there, they were down to 10. They just keep losing teams after team, because nobody wants to go there to lose and lose badly. And if we went there this year, we would have won 20-0 in some of the teams in the first two innings. And that's ridiculous. That's not good for us. It's not good for the other teams. So what does Little League do? Well, keep Africa away, and we'll keep Europe healthy. If Africa comes in, okay, we're going to lose all of Europe. Now, when you come down to Little League gets all its money from ESPN, or most of its money from ESPN, a television contract. And ESPN doesn't broadcast in Africa. They pulled out about 4 years ago. Of course, there's no money. But if we damage Europe and we cut down the number of teams in Europe, there's going to be less people watching ESPN in Europe. And all the sponsors for Little League, which is basically Honda, Subway sandwiches, Dick's Sporting Goods, and Kellogg's. All those are big sponsors in Europe also. They all exist in Europe. They do not exist in Africa, except for some Kellogg's and used Hondas, about the only thing that shows up in Africa. So there's no money in the league as far as Africa is concerned. But that's not going to stop us. Our goal now is we're going to try and establish our own Africa tournament. We've been after the league since 2004 to set up a tournament in Africa so we don't have to go to Europe and pay $35,000 per team to get there. So our goal is now we're going to set up our own tournament in Africa. Well, we're willing to host it at no cost to anybody. All you got to do is show up, and we'll house and feed you for the time. And whoever wins that tournament, theoretically, should be invited to the World Series. But they will not be until enough pressure is put on in the rest of the world to say, hey, why is Africa excluded? Us going to Europe is crazy to pay that amount of money just to play 3-4 games.
Right.
Out of your mind to do that kind of stuff. But here, we can house them, we'll feed everybody, we'll pick them up at the airport, drive them to the complex at no cost to them. All we got to do is come. We know we'll have teams from Kenya. We know we'll have teams from Tanzania. We know we'll have teams from Rwanda. Will they be any good? Well, that's a different question. Okay, can we have a team from South Sudan? Possibly. Now, teams that's only a bus trip to us. But the teams from South Africa have to fly. It's not as big a flight as it is to Europe. the team from Cameroon. Allegedly, they have a league in Cameroon. We don't know that's for sure or not, but they could fly. Ghana would fly, as would Nigeria fly. We could have 9, 10 teams playing in the tournament if we wanted to set this up. What would Little League do then? Would they not invite anybody to a World Series, even though we're playing the tournaments? And that's a real good possibility. Little League has promised us, oh, yes, we're going to study. We're studying. It's 12 years of studying. What are they studying now? So this is where we are, a little bit frustrated.
I bet. And so, what I witnessed last year is, like I said, your Ugandan girls, they were so athletic. I mean, it was amazing. I would love to have a shot at coaching a team like that. I'd get a couple of my friends together, and I'd tell you what, you give us 6 to 8 months working with a team like that, we're going to dominate. Their athleticism is just off the charts, and they're girls that want to play the game. But
absolutely,
the thing
they enjoy it,
they do, and that's what I was going to get at. The thing that impressed me the most was their very first game that they won on American soil. And I don't know if you saw the video of this, Brian, but they danced. They got in a circle and they started singing and dancing. And then the next thing you know, there's other teams joining them. By the time those Ugandan girls left Portland, they were the darlings of the tournament. They put some fear into some people because, I think the world is on notice that these Ugandan kids, they are so athletic. All they need is the tools and the experience on how to play the game. They need the coaches that's got the experience and got the knowledge. And, that's a couple years out, and they're working on that. But I'll tell you what, those girls were so much fun to watch, and they were fun to hang out with. And, it inspired me, because, people tell you, they play it for the love of the game. And that is so true with these Ugandan kids. They play it for the love of the game. And so it's
That's true. The boys and the girls both, they just enjoy playing. And it doesn't matter what sport. Give them any sport.
Right.
Give them a chance to play, and they play. Because they have really nothing much else to do. They don't play computer games because they're available, but they don't have the money to buy them. You have to have the power to hook it up. So a lot of these people don't have power in their houses. So there's various reasons. But these kids, obesity really doesn't exist in Uganda.
No.
And they can all run. And they enjoy it. And they enjoy being outdoors and being able to partake in a game of any sort. Basketball, could be ice hockey. One thing I'll tell you that's an interesting little story. The school this year, for the first time, competed in soccer. Okay, they have a national championship for soccer amongst the secondary schools. Now, you have to understand, secondary school is basically the last 6 years of your what we would call high school. They have 7 years of primary school, 6 years of high school, and then 3 years of university. So the total is still 16 years, but it's broken up a little bit differently. So the secondary schools are from grade 8 on up for 6 years. So these girls, basically 13, those girls that you saw, a number of them are excellent soccer players. And again, before they came to the school, they never played. But again, given the opportunity, and they will play. And they wound up into the finals of the national championship round. And the boys also did the same thing. So by the army of these kids, they could be eligible for soccer tournaments if anybody would ever get a chance to see them, or soccer scholarships at universities, because they can run and they can know how to handle the ball. It shocks me to see the ability that they do have just by playing over a year or so. And what you're saying is absolutely correct. Given the right coaching, you can take any one of these kids, take 20 kids off the street, and you'll have a great team.
Oh,
if
definitely.
You just give them a chance.
and watching the boys play, at the Little League World Series. I got to watch them a couple times on TV. You guys were so deep with pitching, and they didn't win it all, and I think a lot of it was due to the lack of experience, but you had 3 or 4 kids that could hit 70.
Well, they were 75, 76, remember. I 12 years old.
I mean, it just blows me away, and it upsets me that people are afraid of a group of kids that are 11 and 12-year-olds like that. I saw how, the girls were treated there at Alpenrose in Portland, and they were, for the most part, they were treated well. But I also saw some of the other coaches, and they were a pretty feared team. They knew, well, their first game, they knocked off Rhode Island. Didn't Rhode Island end up taking second overall?
Yes, I believe so.
And so
I think they didn't think they were that good. I think they got caught.
They knocked off Rhode Island, in their very first game. And, give them the...
Well, they lost the first game.
Okay.
I forget who they lost to. Then they played Rhode Island the second game. They beat Rhode Island the second game. And I think then they beat Puerto Rico or somebody from the Caribbean.
Right.
They won 2 and lost 2, and then they lost the consolation game.
Yeah, which I think they could have won a couple of those games that they lost. But, I mean, the play, I remember a ball hit out to the wall in, left center. And the base runner attempted, I believe, go to third on it, on the play, and the girl drilled her from the wall. I mean, one hop threw her out. And so
that was the Rhode Island game. That was the last out.
That's right.
The umpire didn't know what to do, if you remember. Everybody was looking at the umpire. What are you going to call?
It was...
The umpire had gone out to the outfield from second base.
Right.
And nobody was covering second base. The other umpires were asleep, evidently. And that was the final out. As the girl never got back to tag up in time for the throw. The throw beat her back. And that was the end of the game. That started the celebration.
But
that's what they always do. They always do that. Even in Poland, they did the same thing. We have pictures of it in Poland. And they just have a good time.
And that's what made it fun. And I remember after my experience on that Saturday with a couple of my friends when we were told that we can't help you guys out, I went home that night and I posted a rant on Facebook. I was pretty upset with it. We were pretty upset with it, because I know what our intentions were, and unfortunately, and it doesn't matter who complained about it. I know who complained about it, but it doesn't matter. If that team wanted to come over and take a part of what we were doing, they were more than welcome to. But our intentions were to help out the Ugandan girls because we knew that they didn't get this specific coaching where they were from. And so I ranted about it, and somebody from, I believe it was the Bat Company in West Lynn, stepped up and they picked up the girls and they ended up taking them to their complex, if I remember right. Is that right, Richard?
That I can't answer because I'm not sure, because I was out there only for the first couple days.
Yeah, I think
I had to get back to New York.
I think they were invited to. Somebody who was connected with a friend of mine saw my rant and invited him out to their complex. Took him out, worked with him for a couple of hours away from the Lily complex. I think they had pizza and drinks and whatever, and just had a good time. And I remember seeing videos of these girls dancing at this complex. The girls dance a lot. I mean, they are so infectious. Every time, it didn't matter whether they won or lost. It was always the same. They were ready to play the next game. They were excited to play the next game. And it was pretty infectious. It was like I said, it inspired me because they're truly playing it for the love of the game.
Norm, one day you got to come over to Uganda.
I would love to come to Uganda. I've actually, last summer, I met some people that do go over, and and I've kept in contact with them. They send over shipping containers full of different items and stuff like that. And
supposedly, that is in Uganda now. Just recently arrived, and they're coming over, I believe, in another week or so.
Right.
If they're not there now. So I'm not sure what's in that container. I think somebody said there might have been a pitching machine in there. I'm not
Yeah,
sure if that's true or not.
from my understanding that there is some baseball and softball gear on board, and I do believe I heard that as well. And so, but man, I love what you're doing over there. Keep up the fight, and what do we need to do? How do we help Little League change their minds? What do we need to do to have them open their eyes and realize on what they're doing? They're holding these kids back. What do we do? What do we need to do?
There's two problems you got here. One, Little League has never been to Uganda. I thought they were going to break through this year until they canceled it the last minute. And they need to understand how Uganda operates. We are used to certain rules in the U.S. We live in districts. You go to district schools. You go to this, depending upon your district. Uganda doesn't have that. You go to any school in the country, and family ties are very loose. So you can live literally anywhere in the country, month to month, year to year, whatever the case may be. And you go to any school you want. There's no ties to any particular school. And this is where Little League is making a huge problem. I understand they're trying to protect Europe from Africa, really what it amounts to, essentially, especially when they turned down this other school from going, which was how they did that, on what basis, I have no idea. But this is ridiculous. What we need to do with these kids, and people understand what our ability is to try and, our goal is to get them scholarships to the U.S. to play half athletic, half academic. All these kids are going to be taking SAT exams this November. And hopefully we might be able to get them some videos of them playing football, of them running track. We'll have official times eventually, and also them playing ball. The boys are going to come to the U.S. They're going to come next August at some time, and we're going to play 8 to 10 games independent of Little League. It might be through the RBI program or through another program here in New Jersey. And they'll spend literally 10 days here playing games every single day. The girls is where the problem is. I need to get these girls in front of college coaches. And I need tournaments that we can send them to that will last more than 2 days. And that's where the problem comes in. How do we do that? When do we do it? Do we do it during February? Do we send them down to Florida? Do we send them out to Southern California where the weather's warm? And they play somewhere for a week or so in front of college coaches. Because they need to be seen. As you've seen, the talent is there. It's just a question of developing the talent. And the talent's even there in football. In what they call football, we call soccer.
Right.
And in running. But we need them to be seen. And coaches are not going to take a chance unless they can personally see them and talk to these kids. And all these kids are top students. They're all taken, they're in the third year now. In the fourth year now, they've all taken biology, chemistry. They're taking physics now. And they'll graduate in another year from now. And the question is now, can we get them into a university in which they get half athletic, or even a whole athletic if possible, and half academic? So that's our goal for boys and for the girls. The boys are going to be seen by coaches next August. We know that for sure. How and where, we don't know exactly at this moment, but it's going to happen. What do we do with the girls? I don't know. And can we get these girls seen by college coaches? And not all of them, but a number of them will deserve athletic scholarships, and they will help a team win. And that's what we want to do. Can we accomplish that? And they're all interested in math. They all will be through pre-calculus. Every student will have pre-calculus. They'll have all the sciences, and they'll have the history of every place in the world, better than most kids in the U.S. But we got to get them to be seen by coaches. We'll pay for the travel coming over. The question is housing and feeding becomes the problem. Where can we go to be housed and fed without running into huge hotel costs and meal costs? So that's what we're trying to work out now. That's what we're working out with the boys now, and the question is what do we do with the girls?
Here's what I know.
I don't know anything about football, though, about soccer.
Here's what I know. With the team that we saw in Portland, Oregon, and I will, keep talking about this, with the coaches that they had, and you had, I think you had three coaches, and they were awesome. They were infectious as well. They wanted to learn. They were sponges, and they want that experience. With my friends that I had, Pat O'Leary, who is the head softball coach out at Amity here in Oregon, Amity High School, and Katie Brewster, who is in the McMinnville High School Hall of Fame for softball. She had a career average of .520 in her high school career, played at University of Utah. With Pat, Katie, and myself, and the three coaches, if we had time to work with them, say over 6 months, I am very confident that we could have won that tournament. They need how hitting wise they can hit, but they don't see the off-speed pitches over there like what they do here in America. They need to learn how to make adjustments to that. Their pitchers, same thing. We know that they can throw fastballs, but they need to mix it up a little bit more. They need to be taught how to throw a changeup, a rise ball, a drop ball, and a curve, and all those. It's the little minute details that they need to learn. And I swear up and down, give us time, we would have dominated that tournament.
I have no doubts about that. As I say, but it's a question of experience.
Absolutely.
And learning.
Yeah.
So the question is, can we do that? And how do we get these kids seen by coaches? That's the important thing. And that's what Little League is hurting us with now by keeping us out of this tournament. And actually hurting all of Africa. You're talking 1 billion people in Africa.
Right.
How can you not have them represented in a Little League tournament and claim they're part of the world? And yet they claim, we have a whole bunch of countries in Africa, but we're never going to allow them to play in the tournament. So that's basically what they're saying, unfortunately. So we've got to try and change that. Is it going to change? Well, if we run this separate tournament and we publicize it, it's going to put a lot of pressure on the league to do something. But it's going to cost them a lot of money, too, and that's where the problem comes in. If they were to do this for 8 teams, we're talking 4 boys, 4 girls, from Africa, you're talking $1 million per year to bring those teams to the U.S. And that's not an easy thing to do. So you have to understand Little League's position on this also. And the publicity of bringing African teams here is not going to do much for ESPN because ESPN's not broadcasting anymore in Africa. So putting a team from Africa in there does nothing as far as money-wise goes.
Right. Except
uses it. And how do you do this? We need another corporate sponsor that's willing to do this. And will that happen? I don't know. But one thing we are doing, we do know for sure. In January, we had 2 scouts from the Cincinnati Reds come over to Uganda. And they saw a bunch of our kids, and they realized these kids are serious. And it's just a question of they're young, and they can't touch them until they're 16. But they are now following a couple of these kids. And more are coming. We're going to have hundreds of kids playing ball, and there's going to be a lot of talent. And it's going to take another couple of years, 3-4 years maybe, before 1 or 2 of those get signed to a professional contract. But they're there. They're coming. We have 2 kids now that are just turning 15 of the boys. They're now at 86 miles an hour.
Jeez.
And we get a couple, they're picking up roughly about 3 miles every 6 months, roughly, on their fastballs. And they have great control. It's not a question of just throwing the ball all over the place. They have great control. They pitch twice a week, 50 pitches each week during the school year, which is about 40-some-odd weeks. So everybody knows what we're doing. And now it's just a question of getting numbers. And we've now started 4 secondary schools playing now, each with 4 teams at the very young level, the 12, 13-year level. But we're going to eventually carry those all the way up to the 17, 18-year level, 4 teams at each 2-year increment. And now we're up to hundreds, and now the scouts come. And that's what we're going to find out. But next January, we hope to get some really good players over to the U.S. and to be seen by more and more scouts and by college coaches. So if we can get a couple of kids into colleges on partial scholarships, on academic, and partial on athletics, so we get a whole scholarship, okay, if we have hundreds of kids coming to play. And that's when Uganda is going to outplace the Dominican Republic. There'll be more players from Uganda eventually than there will ever be from the Dominican Republic. And that's 3, 4, 5 years away. But it's coming.
Well, let's put the pressure on Little League to do the right thing, and that it sounds like that Africa definitely needs their own tournament, and Africa's big enough to have its own tournament, and so
absolutely.
I know
it's the biggest continent other than Asia.
I know that Kenya is starting to pick up baseball, and like you said, Cameroon and the other countries, and it's time. So let's put the pressure on Little League and have them do the right thing. I do want to give a shout out to, I don't know how many people from Uganda are actually viewing us right now. I don't know. But I want to say hi to everybody out there. And, I'm disappointed that we won't be seeing the girls in Portland, Oregon this year. And, we won't be seeing a Ugandan team in Williamsport. All I got to say is shame on Little League. But they'll keep pushing to get the kids there and to do the right thing. Richard, thank you for taking your time on your Father's Day and coming on the show and getting us caught up what's going on in Uganda.
It was my pleasure, and thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Hey, anytime.
Have a good day yourself.
Hey, thank you very much. Once again, Mr. Richard Stanley, who started the AVRS school there in Uganda, and he's doing great things, and they need him. They need to let the kids play.
It's all about money, isn't it?
It's sad, isn't it?
It really is.
It is.
You can trace pretty much the old saying, follow the old buck, and that's what's going on here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell you, those girls were amazing.
Thing is, though, even if they were terrible, didn't win a single game,
right?
You've got 1 billion people there in Africa that aren't even represented. I mean, that's just ludicrous. But it's, $1 million they don't want to spend to fly those people out and have them play.
So the story, I'll let you know the story. So the story is Katie Brewster, Pat O'Leary, Pat's daughter Megan. We went out on a Saturday to help out the Ugandans, and so we wanted to work with them on a little bit on hitting and a little bit on pitching and help them understand. Uganda was to play the Oregon representative from Tigard in the next game, and that's where we ran into a problem. One of the coaches knew Pat because Pat is the Amity head coach, works with Oregon Rave fast pitch in the summertime. And they thought that we were giving the girls an unfair advantage by being there and helping them. Which my argument to the tournament director was, these girls don't have the opportunity to go to Barnes in the wintertime, to go to hitting lessons, to go to pitching lessons and to catching lessons, because softball isn't the only sport they play. They play whatever sport is in season over there. And I saw the fear, of what these girls can do. I mean, I am dead serious when I tell people that, You give us 6 months to work with those girls, they're going to win the World Series. They're that athletic. They could run, they could field. It's just the little, the little things of the game that they need to learn. And it's in its infancy. And
give it time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I'm excited to see, what happens. So I want to go on a little rant. So my Parks and Rec job, parents and coaches, hey, guys, don't argue balls and strikes. You'll never get anywhere. Yesterday I had a conversation with a parent. He was up in the bleachers watching his son's game, and he was complaining about the strike zone of one of our 16, 17-year-old umpires. And my response to him is if you really want to complain about umpiring that much, we'll fill out the paperwork. You could start on Monday. We'll have you umpire our games. When you're on the field, you get a totally different view of what it's all about than sitting up in the stands. It's all about the angles and stuff like that. Don't argue balls and strikes. Just let it be. Teach your kids how to make adjustments. Adjustments are a part of the game. Adjust to the umpire. There's always a saying that I was told, don't let the man behind the plate determine your fate. So, once again, happy Father's Day. I'm Norm. Brian over there. Tony Torquato is not with us. Tony is missing. He's not missing. He's probably out at the beach. And we are sponsored by baseballisms.com. If you like my hat, you can find it at baseballisms.com. We are also sponsored by baseballdudes.com. To be the best, you must train like the best. Chris Gazelle up there in Vancouver, Washington. Base by Pros, building an athlete sports education. Mitch Canham, skipper Mitch Canham over there in Clinton, having a decent season. And his dad, Mark, does our shirts, as Brian is wearing this morning, with MDM Designs. And so if you would like a Clubhouse Chatter shirt, hey, get in touch with me and I can hook you up. And we also stream live, yamhilltoday.com. Every time we're on, yamhilltoday.com. Hey, we're looking for sponsors. If you'd like to sponsor the show, shoot me an email, normbo18@gmail.com. You can find us at Twitter, Clubhouse Chatter 1T, Facebook, YouTube. We're also on iTunes, MLB.com blogs, and Facebook. Yeah, you can find a lot of us on Facebook. So, hey, I'm Norm. This is Brian. Happy Father's Day. And we'll be back next week with some, hopefully some pretty interesting shows. Thanks for watching.